it is interesting to note that you actually learn language, in other words, speaking and listening, by mere exposure to the language. But when it comes to reading and writing, it's not something that you do automatically. It is not an innate skill that you have. You have to be taught to read and write. And hence, it is important that the child must have a very strong skill in terms of oral language before you start teaching reading and writing. Because when you write, you actually convert spoken language into a symbol system using the alphabet to represent that spoken language in a text format. And reading is the opposite of that. It means that you must know the coding system, how the letters of the alphabet are manipulated to represent spoken language in order to decode the text.
Understanding encoding helps us understand decoding. In order to understand the teaching of decoding, we first need to consider 1. The encoding of a language using the Roman alphabet. 2. The underlying principles of the use of the Roman alphabet. 3. The limitations of the Roman alphabet. The ideal way to use the Roman alphabet as a writing system would be to have a one-on-one relationship between speech sounds and symbols, i.e., one letter represents one sound and only one sound. This would work for a language with only 26 speech sounds. This would be a perfectly transparent orthography. The reality of using the Roman alphabet as a writing system is a little different. African languages have more than 26 speech sounds. Most African languages have approximately 40 to 60 speech sounds. We are short of symbols to represent sounds. So how do we overcome the limitations of the 26 letters of the Roman alphabet? The first solution is to reallocate letters to create more speech sound symbols. For example, in isiZulu, there are no speech sounds for C, Q, or X. The letters C, Q, and X are used to represent the click sounds. Some languages gain symbols for speech sounds in this way. The second possible solution is to use diacritical markings. For example, in Afrikaans we use the circumflex E as in sker. Some languages gain symbols for speech sounds in this way. The third and most commonly used solution is to use a particular sequence of letters to denote a single sound. For example, in English, the speech sound sh is represented by the sequence of letters SH. When the sound is pronounced, you do not hear two separate sounds. Notice that your mouth does not move as you pronounce the sound. It is an agreed convention in English that the letter sequence SH represents the speech sound or phoneme sh. Most languages gain symbols for speech sounds in this way. What is the difference between a phoneme and a blend? A digraph is a two-letter sequence representing a single speech sound or phoneme. A blend is a sequence of two letters where the sounds represented by these letters retain their distinctive sounds. For example, in English, consider the sequence ba-l in the word blood. When you pronounce the word blood, you clearly hear the b sound and the l sound. Notice that your mouth moves as you pronounce each sound. The sequence ba-l does not form a digraph. It is a consonant blend. What are the implications of differentiating phonemes and blend sounds for the pedagogy of teaching reading? We must distinguish between phonemes and blends. The child who's mastered phonemes can read blends by pronouncing one phoneme after the other and blending them together. The child must be able to recognize and read phonemes. The child must be able to blend phonemes together to form words. Example 1. We can blend phonemes represented by single letters to form a word. If a child knows these phonemes, k, a, t, they can read k, a, t, cat. If a child knows these phonemes, k, l, a, p, they can read k, l, a, p, clap. There is no need to memorize kl. Example 2. We can also blend phonemes represented by a sequence of 2 letters to form a word. If a child knows these phonemes, f, I, sh, they can read f, I, sh, fish. The child must be taught to memorize sh. Example 2. If a child knows these phonemes, m, a, n, p, l, they can read a, m, aim, m, a, n, main, p, l, a, n, plane. The child must be taught to memorize a. There is no need to memorize p. Do you see the logic of the approach to decoding? Do you see why it is important to identify phonemes and blends? Do you agree that if a child knows the phonemes and they can blend phonemes together, they can read words?
The African languages are fortunate that they are what we call transparent languages or have a transparent orthography. That means that each character has one sound and one sound only. So the question is then, why are the children who are reading in African languages and who are tested in African languages, why are their results so poor? The underlying problem is basically that, first of all, the children take too long, in my view, to master the phoneme-grapheme relationship. And secondly, the decision was not taken correctly in terms of what phonemes are and what so-called blends are. So if you look at the present system, then the children are taught all sequences of sounds as new sounds. And that takes forever because in isiZulu, for instance, there are 116 different consonant blends, and there are 46 phonemes. So you don't need to teach those 110 blends as new sounds because they're not. As much as the sequence of, for instance, BR in English in the word break is not a new sound. It's a B plus a R. And therefore you don't need to teach the child as if br is a new sound. It's not. It's the combination of two sounds.
Empa ha re tla di blends tsa rona. Di blends tsa rona ke modumo e tshwanang le bo nt, n le t ha di atamelane lentsweng, n le k re re ke nk ha di atamelane lentsweng, n le ts re re ke ntse ha di atamelane lentsweng. Jwale se e ne e le tlwaelo kapa mokgwa ke hore re ne re iphumana re nka beke kaofela re ruta blend. Blend ke nt. Ngwana ha rutuwe n, a bile a rutuwe t. Medumo yeo e ikemetse eo. Ha ho hlokahale hore re nke beke kaofela re ruta mantswe a nt. Ha ngwana a tseba n, a tseba k, o tlo tseba hore lentswe lena ke nk, le ka ntle le ho rutuwa. So ntho e ke ile ka ithuta yona ke hore re iphumana re lelefatsa di-program tsa rona tsa spelling tsa Sesotho ho fihlela re iphumana grade 3 re ntse re introduce medumo e metjha, hobane re nkile nako re ruta medumo e leng hore yona bana ba ka kgona hore ba ipalle mantswe a teng.
One thing that I like about this program is the fact that we are moving away from what has been taught previously, where learners will cram and sing the phonics from A to Z without understanding anything, without developing any words out of those phonics that they are singing every day. With this one, the process that was done was to ensure that we first introduced phonics which are mostly used in different words. So in this context, you will find that in Xitsonga, phonics like M, phonics like A, phonics like N, phonics like H and L are the ones that are frequently available in most of our Xitsonga words. So in this case, it means that these are the phonics that were first introduced in the first week when the learners are in grade 1. So within a week or two, learners would be able to come up with their own words coming from the little phonics that they have learned. Unlike previously where you'll find that learners will know to sing A to Z, but there's not even a single word where they can make a word out of the alphabets or the phonics that they have learned. So for me, this approach is the best, and also for Xitsonga, I think it works properly because from the 6 phonics that they learn on the first week, they can even come up with words up to 10. So that on its own shows that this is a good program. And the best part is that when a learner finishes grade 1, a learner is able to read simple sentences, even phrases. So for me, this is the best program that has ever been developed in our education system.
In grade 1 and 2, we make use of decodable text. So that is very important because, say for instance, we start with the letter or the sound S. He will only have done that. You will not come across any other letter. As we proceed, as we go on, the text becomes a bit more challenging because the child already then knows more of the sounds. And what is also a plus is that these sounds, these phonics on these worksheets are linked to the phonics program. So what the teacher has done there, the learner will be able to do here. So it's not something that the learner will be unfamiliar with because the teacher will have taught it to him in the class. Another thing that is in these worksheets that's for me terrific is the repetition. Because I felt when I was a teacher and I felt when I was a school principal, there wasn't enough emphasis given on repetition. And I think many learners fell off the bus because things were not repeated. It's not that they couldn't learn to read, it's because something was not repeated to them. But now the sounds are repeated. That is really a wow to me. That is really good. Then in grade 3, because the learner already then knows all the sounds, the text is a little bit more challenging and the stories are also more challenging.
I think this program, it's integrated very well because firstly, you teach the learners the sounds, and then after teaching them the sound, you also teach the handwriting, how you write the sound that you have taught. Then during group guided reading, they revise the sound the words of the sound that they have already learned, and they also have a decodable text which they can read from all the sounds that they have learned previously.